So we wanted to start by sort of setting some background as to how we arrived at where we are today, because you don't sort of show up with a presentation called Engagement is Broken overnight. Right? This was sort of evolved in two different ways. And my story actually looks like this, and it's going to, hopefully I'll fill in some color on this on the graph. But a number of years ago when I was in HR working for a company here in Omaha, we had a business and we were on the path of transformation. We had a company that definitely needed some turnaround. There was a lot of investment we were putting into getting the business back on track. And we decided that it made perfect sense at that time to go get some feedback from our employees. So an employee engagement survey made a lot of sense. The HR group was very excited. You know, this was our way of contributing to turning the company around. And so we decided if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We're going to go with one of the big guns. Now, I'm not going to tell you specifically who we worked with, but the company's name rhymes with scallop. So if you figure that out, that's on you, not on me, right? So we implemented the survey, and we did the first year. And as you all know, those of you that go in the first year, you're establishing baseline. So you can see here, year one, we established a baseline. Now, baseline let us know sort of how we were going to perform against ourselves over time, but we had benchmark data and all of that. So we followed the prescribed action planning script that the vendor had given us. And we were hyper diligent about it. We held our managers very accountable to creating an action plan with their teams based on the results they had gotten for that year. We held them accountable to updating it throughout the year. And then year two came along, and we did our second survey. And hallelujah, look at what happened. Our engagement results went up. It was working. Awesome. And better than that, not only did our engagement results went up, our business results went up. Now, we were measuring it in terms of EBITDA profit margin is what mattered to us there. But both went up. And we were very happy from an HR perspective, as was our vendor, to accept some credit for that. Like, look how awesome we are. We told you that this engagement thing was going to work. We had bought into engagement driving results. We implemented it. We were hyper diligent in planning. We followed up, and it worked. So now we're really emboldened. I mean, HR is walking around, we're strutting. Have any of you been there before? Yeah? Right. We're strutting, we got a little kick, and now the vendor comes back, and now they have super cool new extra tools for us that are more specific and more detailed action planning. And so we got really hyper diligent about action planning in year two. And we did the plans, and we followed up all through the year. And then year three came, and we did year three survey. And a weird thing happened. Engagement results went down. What? Now, the good news was that while engagement results had gone down, here's what happened to company results. So, there's definitely a silver lining to that, but we were sitting there sort of scratching our head because we had bought into this notion that engagement drives results. So when engagement went down, it would stand to reason that results should go down, right? But clearly that didn't happen. So we went to our vendor sort of looking for some answers, like how could this happen? What happened? They didn't have any answers. They didn't seem particularly concerned about finding answers. It's like, what are you worried about? Look at what's happening in the company. And they were still selling us that our engagement efforts were what was making that happen, and yet their instrument was saying something very different. So clearly there was more to the story. And so that's how I started. That's where sort of my, cracks in the belief of the traditional engagement survey process started happening. Now, for those of you that have heard Sai over the years, and I'm sure most of you had, you've heard her talk about some of the flaws that she sees in the engagement survey. And so I think that's sort of part of how we came together in this last year, is that we both came to the same conclusion in sort of different ways. And that conclusion was that engagement isn't working. At least the way that we're traditionally approaching engagement isn't working. There's something else going on. And so that's the one sort of thing that we're very solid on, is that we believe it isn't working, and we believe it isn't working because there are some flaws in the very foundational design of how we approach surveying for engagement. And that is that the engagement process is based on three critical assumptions that we believe are very faulty. sort of fatally flawed. And those three assumptions are, number one, that all employee responses are equally credible. Second flaw is that perfecting employee circumstances will lead to increased engagement. And the third is, this is pretty foundational because this is what the entire industry is built upon, is that engagement drives results. So what we're going to spend the next hour on is taking you through each of those assumptions, sort of attacking them and pulling them apart to show you where the flaws are. And then the payoff will be that we're going to reveal to you what actually is driving results in your organization and what you should do about your broken engagement process.